Well, good afternoon and welcome to another edition of Black Money Matters. I'm your host, Karen Weaver, and I am with my co-host, Jamecka Patrick,
Hello, hello.
and we're still excited to be
We're
here.
so
We're so
excited. We
excited.
have a really exciting episode today, don't we,
Yes,
Dr.
we
Weaver?
have an exciting episode. I have to hold my heart because I'm so happy about the guest that we have, and he's probably not a stranger to so many of you. But I'm going to read his bio, but I like to call him Flint. He's a testimony for the city of Flint. He was born and raised in Flint, and he's done such amazing things and achievements, and so we're really honored to have him. So let me tell you who our guest is for today. I know you know Jamaica, but
Yes,
it's
yes, yes.
uh, Dr. William F. Picard, and I'm going to read some of his bio. William F. Picard, PhD, and you can see his picture up there, uh, is chairman and executive founder of GAA Manufacturing and Supply Chain Management, GAA New Ventures, co-managing partner, MGM Grand Detroit Casinos, CEO of Bearwood Management McDonald's, and co-owner of 5 black black-owned newspapers. We're going to talk about that. Picard's 48th entrepreneurial career began as a McDonald's franchisee in Detroit, Michigan. Let's see, since its founding in 1989, listen up, GAA has generated more than $5 billion in sales, with 8 plants in the U.S. and Canada, and service corporations such as Boeing, Mercedes-Benz, Ford, General Motors, Chrysler, Delphi, Johnson Controls, Starbucks, Home Depot, and Merck Pharmaceutical. He served on numerous business and nonprofit boards, including Asset Acceptance Capital Corporation, Michigan National Bank, LaSalle Bank, Business Leaders for Michigan, National Urban League, Detroit Symphony Orchestra, Detroit Black Chamber of Commerce, and is a let me see. Oh, you're a member of Alpha Phi Alpha Fraternity Incorporated. Every day. My father was a member of Alpha Phi Alpha Fraternity, as was my brother and all of the men in my family except my husband. Except my husband, you heard me say that. He would be upset. I have to say he's a Kappa, but Dr. Picard was awarded Michiganian of the Year for his I'm trying to read off for his business success, civic leadership, and philanthropy. He was the first chairman of the African Development Foundation in 1982, appointed by President Ronald Reagan, and under President George Bush was appointed to the National Advisory Committee on Trade Policy negotiations, the Federal Home Loan Bank Board, Indianapolis Bank in Indiana. Wow, this is impressive. He is also creating a new generation of entrepreneurs with millionaire moves. I want to talk about that. The 7 proven principles of entrepreneurship: vision, attitude, opportunity, relationships, talent, skill set. It goes on, and it says you will share, in this book, you share your undeniable principles anyone can use to become a successful entrepreneur. Now, you know what? I'm going to add something to this because it says you hold your bachelor's degree from Western Michigan University, your a master's from University of Michigan, and a PhD from, it says, the Ohio State. But I have to say, you went to Flint Northern, and I'm always excited to talk to a
Oh,
Viking.
here we go.
And I know, well, Jamaica, she just doesn't understand. I don't know where she went to school. What was it, Southwestern? Oh,
Northwestern. I am
Northwestern,
a
okay.
wildcat.
She's a wildcat. We'll still let her stay on the show. But it says that in honor of Dr. Picard, the William F. Picard Living Center is named in your honor, at Grand Valley State University. Donated over $3 million to Western Michigan University, which was used to build a new facility on campus. Hall Archer Picard East and Hall Archer Picard West, over $1 million to the National Museum of African American History. and Culture in Washington, D.C., $1 million to the Charles H. Wright Museum of African American History, $1 million to Motown Historical Museum, $500,000 to DSO in honor of Arthur L. Johnson and Judge Damon J. Keith, and $100,000 to Wayne County Community College District in honor of Deborah Green Virgils. Did I say that correctly? And Maureen Brown Smith. I mean, this is impressive. And we can tell from your resume that you've really invested in African American culture and education and opportunity. Like I said, we've referred to you as the testimony of Flint because you are, I mean, you're a success story, and that's really, really important. That's really important, and that's what we want to bring to people. Jamecka, you can jump in any time. You know, I was giving you a little background about why we put this show together, because we know that our community needs to be educated around economic empowerment and opportunity because it intersects what? Health and healthcare,
public
outcomes,
health, and all of those things.
you know, opportunities for loan and mortgages for housing and for starting a small business. We've talked about education and access to education, home ownership. I mean, there's so many things that economic empowerment intersects. And so, I mean, you've just got so much to share.
And what excites me is, Dr. Picard, you know, that you're from Flint. And the first couple of shows that we've had, we talked about St. John neighborhood, and we did a behind the scenes sort of episode, and your name came up. And so, you know, it was really exciting. And then learning about the things that you've done, you know, and when Dr. Weaver was reading me your bio at first, I said, is that billion with a B? And so, you know, that's really exciting, and it goes to what we're trying to do, trying to help empower people to create and sustain wealth in the Black community. And so we are super excited to have you here today.
Well, I'm just a Flintstone from McClellan and North Street, and the mighty, mighty Vikings from Northern High School. God is able.
That's right.
That's right.
I think the most important thing is that, you know, in those days we had a community that nurtured us and encouraged us. And praise God, that was a Flint Junior College.
Right.
Without Flint JC and today Mott College, I'm not sure my life would have been what it is today, because Mott College gave me a chance and a start that I probably could not have gotten at most other places. And I tell everybody, I'm very proud of the fact it took me 3 years to get out of Mott College. 3 years. But I was a solid C student, but I knew what I was good at, and I knew what I had to struggle with. And so by the grace of God, and a lot of people from Dr. Rex Weaver to Mr. A.W. to all the Larry's Record Shop, from the number men, I learned, I was like a little boy that was just learning from everybody about a lot of things. It has served me well in my life. So I'm very proud of what Flint has done for me.
Well, can we go back a little bit? First of all, you're right about Mott Community College. I got my first degree from Mott Community College, and I feel like I wouldn't have been able to go on and get those other degrees, you know, without that solid foundation. So I agree with you wholeheartedly on that. But can we go back to something you just said? I'm going to just pass it over
because
to
you know
Dr.
what? Because as you were listing people that were, you know, influential in your life, you said, and the numbers man. And we were talking about that the other day, because one of the things we were talking about is how nowadays even some of us will try to demonize and criminalize the numbers man. And I was like, wait a minute, hold up. Let's talk about the role that he played in our community and the support that he gave us. So could you touch on that, please? I'm so glad you brought it up.
Yeah, well, in my book, which is Millionaire Moves, I talk about my uncle, Paul Woodyard, known as
Chipmunk. I was going to say, that's Chipmunk.
And, you know, he owned the Peacock Lounge up there on North Saginaw Street. But most importantly, you know, in our community, the number men and the number women were just more than business people. They helped bury people who didn't have any money. They helped people go to college who didn't have money. They helped people open their businesses up, and they rewarded people who worked for them. I mean, they had big Christmas parties where they gave away all kinds of things to people. So it was, I call it, it was an invisible bank.
Right.
Because
Okay.
no disrespect, but in 1955, Citizens Bank would not loan money to a black woman to go in business, but they would loan money to a black man to buy a car. So if you wanted to go in business, you probably had to have your dad or your granddad or somebody go around the corner and talk to a certain person, and they would loan you the money and you paid it back.
Wow.
That was not true just in Flint. That was true all over Black America. And by the way, I'm telling you about my second book, Sister Weaver. My second book is entitled 100 Outstanding African American Business Success Stories. And in there, I have a section on the number business.
Oh, I can't.
And
when is that coming out?
I talk about some of the outstanding number people. I skipped over Flint, but I did talk about people from Chicago and Atlanta and New York.
Okay.
Because that was an intricate part of our business. And these men and women made a way out of no way.
Made a way out of nowhere.
They gave money to Howard University. They gave money to Fisk University, Tuskegee. So they were business people who helped the ecosystem of our community at that time. At that time, we all lived together. And at that time, the money circulated 10, 20, 30 times in our community.
Okay, you know what? Stop for a minute, because that was something we were talking about. And, you know, the circulation. Do you have that information, Jamecka? Because that's one of the things, you know, when we talk about creating black wealth, you know, we've said, why is it that we have a problem supporting each other? Jamecka, read those numbers about money.
And I'm trying to pull it up here, but in the information, it says that now the black dollar is in the black community, it circulates 0 to 1 time, as opposed to, what did you just say, 10 times in the past. So, and that's a problem. That is a problem in trying to create black wealth when we don't have the dollars circulating the way that they should.
So why do you think that is, that we have such an issue supporting each other so that money does circulate in our community more than that one time?
Because in the Asian community, those dollars are circulating 120 times longer than our dollars are circulating in our communities.
That's true today, but that wasn't always true. They say
Right.
in Greenwood, Oklahoma, during the height of the Greenwood situation,
Exactly.
they estimate that the dollar circulated 30 times before it left Greenwood.
And you know what, and like you brought that up, because like I said, I was really impressed with, you know, that Greenwood initiative, because when I was reading about it, one of the things that was talked about, this was when Michael Bloomberg was doing that Greenwood initiative. He talked about home ownership and how home ownership by black households dropped to its lowest since the 1960s. He talked about he wanted to increase mortgage lending for low-income homes and offer more incentives to build more affordable housing. Talked about doubling the number of black-owned businesses, because he said there were about 120 black-owned businesses with at least one employee across the country. But he also said if a study found that if people of color owned businesses at the same rate as white entrepreneurs, it would result in 9 million more jobs for everyone and an additional $300 billion in income for workers. I mean, that's something. You know, increasing capital for entrepreneurs in black communities, and having banks making seed funding available and expanding loans and connecting entrepreneurs with lenders. And, you know, so it was just one of those. Said 1 in 5 blacks doesn't have a bank account, and why that needs to change. And actually having businesses and banks, I mean, not businesses, but banks in black communities and black-owned banks. I mean, what's going on with that? What do we do? What is the message we need to get to people?
Well, I think first of all, you know, we have to understand that we are living in an age of technology and globalization. And you cannot lose yourself into believing that we're going to open up 5,000 beauty shops or 5,000 barber shops or 5,000 hamburger stands or 5,000 barbecue stands and have every black person wealthy.
Right.
But I believe if you start out with a barbershop or a beauty shop or a hamburger or a McDonald's, you begin to grow your vision and you can grow your understanding of the American free enterprise system. So I'm all about what we might call micro business, cottage home business, doing hair in the basement, selling things legally here and there, because that gives you the basic rudiments, the basic skills. I worked at Larry's Record Shop when I was in high school on Leith and North Street, and I swear I learned more about how to handle people at Larry's Record Shop than I ever learned in college, because you had to talk to the jazz lover one way, and you talk to the gospel people on Sunday another way, and then of course the people that came in looking for Brooke Benton and Dinah Washington and Marvin Gaye, that was another discussion. So all of these things are what I call stair steps. We all are evolving, we all are growing and expanding our horizons. But what concerns me is we don't know that we once had thriving businesses all over the black community.
Right.
In Flint, in Saginaw, and when you get to the big cities like Chicago, them brothers and sisters had some things going on. You get to New York, you get to Atlanta, you go to Durham, North Carolina. And we need to understand that these things did exist and that these black people made a way. So it's not that we can't do it, it's just that we have been absorbed into this la-la land that if your zip code is bad, your life aspirations are bad. And while that might be true, if we don't accept it as being the truth, then all things are possible. I was sitting here thinking about Herb Washington from Flint.
Exactly.
Herb, one of the most successful black businessmen, or white businessmen in this country. He got 30 McDonald's. He owns a marijuana place in Youngstown, Ohio. And there are a lot of people from Flint that I meet everywhere I go, because there's something about us that come from Flint. Maybe it was in the water, I don't know.
Oh, no, you didn't.
That gives us this grit, this grind. I'm going to make a way out of no way, and I'm going to help black folk. That's an intricate part of most of the men and women that I know that come out of Flint, Michigan, even those from Northwest and South. If you're from Northern, it's in your NDA.
Oh, here we go.
Thank you. That's why I had to add that to the resume. I said, wait a minute. He went to Northern and went to Mott. I'm going to put that out there. But like you said, it was called junior college then. That's what it was called. So you talked about having to have commitment. And what are the things, I mean, even with opportunity, there are certain things that you have to do yourself to be successful that no one else can do for you. What would you say those things are?
Well, you know, Sister Weaver, here again, I'm not being critical, but you know, we are renowned for having basketball players from Flint. We are renowned for having football players and track stars from Flint. Well, you know, those brothers and sisters put the work in on those tracks. They did the exercise. They learned their plays. They put the work in. And so if you want to be a successful business person, it's the same thing.
Put the work in.
Put the work in. It took me 3 years of my life to get out of Mott Community College because I was not a good college student when I walked on that campus. As a matter of fact, I'm going to call the name because I love it. My first counselor was Mr. Earl J. Mahoney.
Okay.
He told my mom and daddy that it would take me 8 years to complete 2 years of college. Wow. Now, he wasn't a bad man. He wasn't a racist man necessarily. He would just read the test score.
Right.
Well, he read the test score, but he didn't read my attitude score, you know, because my attitude was I got to get out of Flint, I got to make some money legally, and I got to help my mama and my family. And that is the most important thing of all, your attitude and how bad you want to do something in life, whether it's running track, playing football, managing a business, becoming the mayor, or becoming a great accountant. You must have a passion and a desire to excel.
You know, you were talking about your attitude and your I believe that. I believe that so much. what is the saying? Your attitude will determine your altitude, or something
yeah,
like that. I know that's
that's
not
it. That's
exactly it, but
I
there's
think
something
that's
like that. And
it.
I've
Yeah.
always believed that. I've always believed that. So, I'm glad you're sharing some of your, I don't know, some of your secrets on success, because that's what we want people to know. And not just here in Flint, because this isn't limited to Flint. Like you said, this is in any black community that you go in, whether it's Saginaw, Flint, Chicago, Atlanta, wherever you go. There's certain things that you have to make yourself successful.
Without a doubt. And as you were saying, what I always tell people, regardless of your aptitude, if you have a positive attitude, you can go to the highest altitude in life.
I like that.
But never ever forget to show your gratitude to the black folks whose shoulders you're standing on.
Absolutely.
Right. You're absolutely right, because that's how we got where we are, on someone else's shoulders. So,
No question.
when's your next book going to be out?
We're going to publish in January
Okay.
of 21. I'm very excited about it. It's called 100 Outstanding African American Business Success Stories. And we've gotten some tremendous reviews, and we think we have something. As a matter of fact, I'm going to give you, this is a commercial.
All right.
I always like to tell people a couple things in this book that we just don't know. And I'm not being critical of what we don't know. But we don't know, one, because white folks didn't want us to know, and two, we don't know because we don't read enough.
Okay.
A good example I'll give you now. I'm not throwing no shade on Madam C.J. Walker.
Right.
I ain't throwing no shade on her. But Madam C.J. Walker didn't come up with the concept. She worked for a lady called Annie Malone in St. Louis, Missouri. Miss Malone had the magic sauce. She had a campus that was a block long. She had a cosmetology school in it. She had a movie theater in it. She had a restaurant in it. She had a washer and dryer to wash all the uniforms for her students every day. Miss Walker was one of her students. Now, y'all are too young to remember, but there used to be a black musician named Chuck Berry.
I remember Chuck Berry.
He was one of her students.
Really?
If you ever see a picture of Chuck Berry, he always had a beautiful hairdo.
Yes, he did.
He was a beautician.
Okay, I didn't know that.
I'm not diminishing Madam C.J. Walker
No.
now. I'm not doing that. But you must understand Annie Malone. She had door-to-door sales. She had a very successful and thriving business. But she was married, and unfortunately, she had to go through a divorce.
Okay.
And in 1927, the courts awarded her husband, in 1927, $400,000 in 1927, and that is what destroyed her business. She had to pay him. She owed the government, and now I'm not throwing shade on Miss Walker.
Right.
But Annie Malone was the one with the idea and the vision.
Okay.
So she's in the book, and I'm gonna give you another example in the book. You're supposed to laugh at this one. You know, Oklahoma had about 50 all-black towns. Oklahoma was considered a free state, and black people left Mississippi, Memphis, Georgia, and they went out to Oklahoma. And basically, in those days, if you got there and you got you some land, you had your land, you owned it. But there was a black town called Boley, Oklahoma. And I want you to Google this, because I don't want y'all to think I'm making stuff up now.
What's the name of the town?
Boley, B-O-L-E-Y.
B-O-L-E-Y, Boley. Okay.
It's still in existence today. Well, in the 1920s, Boley, Oklahoma had two black banks. It's an all-black town. They had two banks. In October of 1931, there was a white gangster that was robbing banks at that time, known as Pretty Boy Floyd.
Oh.
No, not the boxer, but the white man named Pretty Boy Floyd. 1931, November 21, he and his boys go out to Boley, Oklahoma to rob the black bank. Shouldn't have done it. Shouldn't have done it.
Bad idea.
They walked into the bank, and the bank president was Mr. D.J. Turner, a big black man. We got pictures of him and everything. money and nobody will get hurt. The robbery was in progress. Mr. Turner hit the burglar alarm. He said, why did you do that? He said, I'm not going to give you black folks money. Bam! He shot him and killed him on the spot.
Wow.
The other black man in the business named Mr. Sylvester got the old shotgun they always kept in the bank, and he shot the white man that killed Mr. Turner. In the meantime, the alarm is going off. The other three white men run outside, and the town is ready. The black men had their shotguns, their squirrel rifles, their hunting rifles, their rabbit rifles, and they killed them that day in Bowley, Oklahoma. So that day, when Pretty Boy Floyd and his gang went to rob a black bank, they learned something.
Learned that day.
Like your grandmother told you, don't mess with black folks' money.
Uh-huh.
Now, whenever I tell that story,
you will have a problem.
Come on now.
That's a good one.
You got to do is Google it.
I am. That was a good, and that's one of the other things that we've been wanting to do is tell people about the history. You know, because we have a rich history.
We do.
That a lot of us don't know about. That was how we started talking about St. John Street, because we were talking, Jamecka had brought up Seneca Park, and she was bringing up Oklahoma and Black Wall Street. And I said, let's talk about St. John Street, because there's so much information or lack of information for our community, which really makes me want to go to something that was in your bio about these black-owned newspapers. Can you talk about that? Because media has always been an issue for us, especially in the city of Flint, and having an outlet to get information to the community.
Accurate information.
Accurate information is right, Jamecka.
I'm a very seasoned citizen.
Okay.
That was, when I was a little boy, I delivered the Bronze Reporter. I sold the Bronze Reporter. Mr. Gibson was a lawyer, and he also printed a newspaper. I think he lived on Lapeer, about 7th Street over there on the south side. And I helped to sell his newspaper as a little boy. Well, you know, black newspapers were the Centrex of black communication. And just think about this. Good example. The Chicago Defender, which we own today, Pittsburgh Courier, which we own today, were the two black major newspapers in America. I mean, they were major. I'll give you an example. So here you are with the Pittsburgh Courier. It is 1949, and you're doing a big story on whatever. How do you think the people in Atlanta and Birmingham and Montgomery and Little Rock got your paper? Because if you mailed it, when it got to the white post office in Little Rock, they threw it in the waste can. They wouldn't deliver it.
Okay.
So you know what we did? The black Pullman porters would take the black newspapers. They pick them up in Pittsburgh, or they pick them up in Chicago. And when they got down to Memphis, they dropped some off. And when they got down to Nashville, they dropped some off.
Wow.
When they got to Atlanta, they dropped. They were the delivery people to carry the black newspapers into the black community. Because the United States Postal System wasn't going to deliver them. So these black newspapers were critical in our success and also in our migration. For an example, the Chicago Defender would run these ads every week. Come north. Life is better. It's not perfect, but it's better than Mississippi. It's better than Georgia. It's better than Alabama. And what the black folks do? We came by the thousand.
Okay.
So the Chicago Defender, the Pittsburgh Courier, these newspapers became the aspirational thing in our lives. Because if you could get a picture in the Michigan Chronicle,
Right.
oh my God, you were moving on up.
Wow.
So we didn't have no USA Today.
Right.
We didn't have no, you weren't going to be in the Flint Journal unless you stole something.
Right. Exactly. And you still might not be in there unless you steal something.
Exactly. So the black newspapers were very critical. Today, unfortunately, we've had to do some very innovative things to keep the papers alive.
So what are they? Because that's what I want to know. Because it's a huge challenge here in Flint, getting accurate information to the community. It really is.
Well, I know you had that Baptist pastor publication or what have you.
Right. We have the Courier.
But you know, we have been able to do pretty good with our newspapers, especially in Pittsburgh and Detroit. And what we do things like the top 50 black women in Detroit or the top 50 black men in Pittsburgh. We've been able to diversify into more of marketing and promotion. We might have a thing with Chemical Bank where we're helping them get into the community and pick up young scholars and sponsor them to college at Western and Eastern and Central. So we've had to reinvent ourselves big time, but it's working. We're not making a lot of money, but my own reason for investing was very simple. These are the papers and the instruments that help us go from Mississippi to Chicago,
exactly,
from Arkansas to Flint, and I want to help keep them alive as long as I can. And one day, my daughter will have to make a decision whether to sell out or not. But right now, I'm good. God has been too good to me to not try to help black folks. And these newspapers do help black people.
Exactly, and we do. We struggle here in the community.
With accurate news, getting news that promotes what we're doing, getting news that shows us in a light that in a positive light, and all of the attributes that we're making to the community. We don't get the credit as far as with the newspapers and things that we need. We don't have anybody reporting on our behalf. I mean, even those things that may not be so positive, but that we need to know about, we don't find out until
we find out from social media.
From social media, and you almost have to the social media pushes the journalists to write stories, and it's really unfortunate. And so we've been talking about that, and how do we make sure that black people are getting the news that is important to black people.
And like I said, and that's one of the reasons that we said we were going to start, this Black Money Matters show, because we want to get accurate information and information that is going to be beneficial to our community, young and old.
And we want to make sure that other people from Flint know that we have people, Vikings, yeah, but people from Flint who have made billions of dollars. That's important to us, because we always hear, if you're from this community, what you can't do, and we want to highlight what you can do, and to help people understand that black wealth can be created, can be sustained in our community by us.
That's what that's been our focus. So I was
every little bit helps, and you never know, like your program today, you never know that there's an 18, 19-year-old young lady who's struggling with whether to go to Eastern Michigan or go to my college, or whether she should sit out for a semester,
Right.
And our request is always, honey, don't sit out, sit in, go somewhere.
I like that.
You might not be able to take a full load, but take something. Because once you get out of the ritual of getting up, studying, going to work,
it's hard to get back.
Going to school, once you get out the ritual, it's hard to get back sometimes. So get started. Just get started. And I was never an A or B student. I don't apologize. I was a solid C student.
Okay. But that's important for people to hear, because sometimes we think that, well, if we're not that A-B student, we can't be successful. And it's not true. It's not true.
And I tell people that, and I was mentioning earlier, my first degree, my associate's degree, was from Mott, and then I went on and got a bachelor's and a master's. And I've never been a full-time student. I was an untraditional student from day one, and I've always been a part-time student. And so I'm happy that you mentioned that, even if you have to take a partial load, just keep going, and eventually you'll get there.
Right.
You'll get there.
Yeah. I'm a strong believer in go slow and be show, or go fast and lose your ass. You gotta take it down.
That's a good one. I like that, though. And that is the message. And I like you talking about having to be creative and sometimes reinventing some things. You know, even because we know people don't read the paper like they used to. And what are some of the things you've had to do to keep it, you know, to sustain it and be happy with that. So I'm glad to hear you talk about that because sometimes you can't do things a traditional way.
Right.
I mean,
Yeah.
I remember my dad was a pediatrician, but the white physicians would not refer kids to him. And so he said, well, I'll fix this. You know, I'm going to go back and learn how to, you know, deliver my own babies and have my own patients. So when that door closed, he said, okay, you know, that's not going to stop me. And that's what you're saying about the paper and why it's so important to have this information. So we've been really talking about trying to get accurate information to our community. And when I saw you with those the black-owned newspapers, I thought, wow, I really want to hear about that. I really do.
Yes. Well, we have a cadre of young men and women in Atlanta. We own papers in Atlanta, Pittsburgh, Detroit, and Chicago, and they are into social media, and they do all these new things that I don't even understand, but they understand the challenge, and they understand the fact that we're standing on 100 years of
Right.
newspapers that carried the black community from the South to the North, and from integration to segregation, integration again. So we have more than just a profit motive. We have a generational motive to keep them going.
And that's wonderful. That's wonderful because there are other things that are so important to making things successful.
Absolutely.
You know, like you said,
absolutely.
if you have that passion and that drive, and you recognize the importance of what it is you're achieving, I mean, those are things that are going to help make it successful.
And that solid foundation, and then being able to take some of these new things like social media and things and build upon that foundation, and just keep the dollars flowing, in the community.
So, you know, one of the things we used to have in Flint, we don't have that anymore, was the Urban League and things that focus on economic development
Yeah.
and empowerment. So I don't know.
Right.
This seemed
Well,
like the
I
right
think this-
topic.
I'm glad you mentioned the Urban League because I was active in the Urban League under Mr. Ted Cobb, John Mack, and then the last guy who had a sight problem. What was his name? He went to Arizona. But the Urban League was an important part of my life. I was involved as a young man
Okay.
at the NAACP. I was president of the Flint Youth Chapter with Mr. Edgar G. Hope.
Oh, you're
So
bringing
Flint
up some
had
old
things
names.
to keep us busy
Right.
and to keep us focused, and it kept me very much involved in the black stuff. And whatever I am today, I owe it to a lot of the stuff that I learned at the Urban League and at the NAAC. Mel Brannon, that was his name.
Mel Brannon, exactly.
The
And we still
scholarship that I
have the
got
NAACP, but
was an Alice W. Galt scholarship.
okay.
Urban League gave me that scholarship. I think it was Ernell Fields Taylor.
I know Ernell.
And John Mack was down there.
Okay.
So I am in an old Flint lot. And I try to help out a little bit here and there. And I have been terribly blessed because of the support that I received in Flint, Michigan.
Wow.
So can you talk a little bit about like your personal journey into those early days or those days of your youth in Flint until to, you know, where you are today?
Yeah, well, you know that I was thinking about this morning, Sister Weavers. I was getting ready to go to the gym. I said, this is funny because I lived on McClellan and North Street, and I went to the mighty Northern High School. Okay,
Okay.
but you know, this is what makes Flint so special. Now, your father-in-law, Mr. Dr. Rex Weaver, was on
Yes.
Dewey.
He was on Dewey.
Right here,
Exactly.
Right here on North Street. Now, you know, one, we ain't got no insurance. Two, we ain't got no money. But Dr. Weaver always found a way to hire one of our guys to help out with the trash,
Right.
or to pick up this, or to pick up that. And in that process, he would talk to us about life. He would talk to us about staying out of trouble. And then there was a Parkland community school right there up the street there again on North Street. And that was Mr. Don Wesley. And Mr. Don Wesley would give us a job on skate night.
I remember Mr. Wesley, right.
Fixing the skates or just something to keep us busy and putting a little money in our pocket. But it was those things that were so intricate part of my life with Billy Moore and Jesse Johnson and Herb Washington. And those things shaped me. I mean, I never knew the importance of Mr. Don Wesley at Parkland. Because I didn't even know the man went to Western Michigan. But he wrote me a letter to help me get in Western.
Wow.
You know.
Yeah.
And one summer, this is funny. One summer, I got a job at the Burston Fieldhouse. I worked in the locker room, and my job was to take the dirty drawers from these kids and put them in a basket and get them a pen, and they go swimming. Well, I couldn't swim, so when it came time to clean the pool, we had to go upstairs and help clean the pool. Well, here I am, can't even swim, but guess what? I helped clean that pool and I learned how to swim quick.
What'd you say? Real quick, because you weren't.
Exactly.
Exactly.
That was I'm going to say this publicly. When I worked at the Burston Fieldhouse in that stanky locker room, that was the worst job I've ever had in my life.
But you learned how to swim.
In the bathrooms at McDonald's, by the way. So.
Well, look, you left one thing out about my father-in-law. And I'm going to tell you what it is or what it was. He sang to you too. When you go, you'd be sitting in that chair and he starts singing. He would sing. Rex doesn't do that, but his dad would sing. I don't think Rex has that voice that his dad had, but his dad would sing. I'm like, okay. I guess that was his way to try and relax you in the chair. But having those kinds of people in your life is really, really important. You know, as a psychologist, one of the things, and Jamecka, you're a social worker, so for mental health, one of the things we know is one of the most important things for success in a child is having just one caring adult. That makes the difference. That's the difference between night and day, is to have one caring adult in your life.
Yeah, I think that's a profound statement, Doc. That's a profound statement. And I know our time is almost up. I want to encourage you ladies to continue to do this, because even though there's all kind of CNN and this and that, somebody will hear or see your broadcast, and it will be a moment in their lives that they needed to hear something positive, and it will uplift them and carry them on. So keep doing what y'all be doing.
We will, and you know what? I want to say thank you for your time coming on. I know we had to, juggle some things, but it sure was worth it to hear what you were going to share with us today.
And thank you for your story.
Right.
Thank you for being a kid from Flint who was able to go out and accomplish all of these things to encourage, the rest of us. So we really appreciate you.
Well, there are thousands of us, even some from Southwest and Northwest, but mostly Northern, who have done great things in life.
Yeah.
And I tell you, that town, there's something special, because I meet 25, 28-year-old people, and I'm much older than that, and they said, Flintstone, we know that's a connect.
Right.
And we know that's an extra grit.
It is.
There's something about growing up on those streets, even today.
Right.
That makes you a little bit more hungry, that makes you a little bit more determined than growing up in a Grand Blanc. Now, I ain't hating Grand Blanc, but it's just different.
It's different.
By the grace of God, I'm very
about
appreciative of what you guys and what you ladies are doing, and I beg of you to keep doing it.
Well, I thank you. We will.
So much.
You've encouraged me. I know that. So we will, and I do. I thank you for your time. I'll be in touch with you.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. All right.
God
you
bless
take
you.
care. Wow, Jamecka.
That was so
Wasn't
exciting.
that? I know.
It's so exciting.
I know it.
And I know we have been talking about, him coming on, and we were really excited. And again, just hearing, when you're able to go out and do these
Right.
things and
Right.
be on these, and I know he didn't talk about, you talked about it when you read his bio, be on all of these boards across the
Right.
nation and
Exactly.
be in a position to help other people. And I mean, that's awesome. That's
It really
amazing.
is. It really is. So this, and these are the kinds of stories that we're going to keep bringing to the community. We're going to keep bringing these stories, because we've talked about, how are you successful in starting businesses and the importance of investing and doing all of these different things.
And even the importance of history.
Right.
Understanding and recognizing the shoulders that we stand on and understanding how people who were able to do things and how they were able to do them, how we can take that information, that knowledge, that history to propel us to do what we're doing right now and even into the future.
So we got to get the book.
We do.
I can't wait for the book to
I
come
cannot.
out.
All I'm thinking is I can't. I'm a reader. I cannot wait to read this book.
Wow. It sounds like, and I want to hear, he said he left Flint out, and he probably did that purposely.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
I can't wait to hear those, read
Read
those
those
stories.
stories.
And really going back to his first book that he put out, because he talks about the things that you need to know to be a successful entrepreneur. And that's what we've talked about is, being able to start your own business and what you need to know. And I mean, now is a good time. I mean, a lot of us are in.
Right.
We're stuck in the house for, a lot of different things. So that's a good book. That should
Right.
be a
And
good read.
we talked about, as we were talking about creating this show, we talked about knowledge and information and how we're often left out,
Right.
of that knowledge, so that we don't know how to access resources. So I think, we need to make sure that we understand that when we do have opportunity to gain knowledge through reading his book and other books like it, especially from Black people who have made their way in the world,
Right.
we need to take those opportunities because those nuggets are important.
They're important, and for him to be right here from Flint, I mean, but he can go all over the world
Absolutely.
and tell this story.
Absolutely.
But it's just more special to hear, a story from home.
It is. It
A
is.
story
It
from
is.
home. And there were some stories. He had some stories. Or I should say, he has some stories. I want to look at those newspapers
Yeah.
too,
Yeah.
and see about that, because that's such a gap here in the city of Flint, and I'm sure in some other Black communities that are this size.
Right. Right. Right.
We're not in Chicago
Right.
or New York or
Right.
Atlanta or Detroit,
Right.
where you have that kind of access.
Right.
But I just think it's important. And we talked about, well, I know Saturday I said something about that's why it's important for us to support the paper that we do have.
Yeah.
The
Yeah,
Courier.
the Courier. Absolutely.
WFLT. It's important to support
is.
our media outlets,
is,
our
it is.
access to information. And what did you say, accurate?
Accurate information. It's very important. And I love the story that he told about how the information got from Chicago
it.
and to the South, things like that. That shows the tenacity of people
Right.
to make sure that we're giving information to our own people,
Right.
and we need to continue that. I mean, think about how much energy and effort and how intentional that
Right.
they had to be
They had to
say,
be.
you know what, we have people in Mississippi, I'm in Detroit
gonna get it.
or in Chicago, and I need to get this information to the South. How can we do that?
Right.
And so now, today, in the day
We
of
would
the
just stop.
information, right? And the thing is, it's so much easier for us to do it. I always talk about social media as I love it, but I hate it at the same time.
Right.
And the reason I say that
A
is
love-hate
because
relationship with it.
a
Yes,
real
yes,
love-hate
yes.
relationship, because it's
I
easy for us
understand.
to give information out.
But is it accurate?
Is it accurate? And we have to be very intentional about the information that we're sharing. And I know that you know firsthand how harmful it can be when
Right.
people are sharing inaccurate information.
Inaccurate
And I do too,
information.
firsthand.
Right.
And so now I'm I'm hyper, I don't know what's the word I'm looking for.
I don't know.
But I'm like hyper vigilant about information.
Making sure
I'm
that we're
always
getting
like,
accurate information.
yeah, who is the they?
Right.
Where is this information coming from? And even before social media, I would always tell my kids when they were little, know your source and understand
Right,
why
you
your
better
source is your source. Why
right.
is somebody giving you this information? And
Because
so
what is it they're trying to
to do right,
Right.
right,
Is it
right,
for the right reason?
right? And I'm going to mangle the quote, But Malcolm X said something about the newspapers being so powerful because that's how people got information.
Media is powerful, and they'll shut you down. You know, they won't try to get the information. It seems like a lot of investigative reporting has gone away. So I mean, that's why I'm so happy we're doing this. I really, really am. I know how important this is to the community. And I know next week we're going to have something special. When are we going to put that information out?
In this upcoming week. Well, we are going to have something special, and we're really excited. Yeah. So, well, and then I know that
we're not even going to tell them who our guest is yet, right?
Nope. We're not going to talk about it. Yep, we're going to save that because you have to stay tuned.
Right.
Stay tuned in and just know and understand, you know, that our goal is to make sure that we're talking about black money in all of its many facets.
Right.
And no, you know, a lot goes into
and we
that.
need to, you know, I think we're going to spend some time also talking about arts and culture. You know, it was interesting to see that he had contributed, Dr. Picard had contributed to the African American Museum in Washington, the Charles Wright Museum in Detroit. But then also, I think, was it the DSO? The Detroit Symphony Orchestra.
Yep.
You know, I mean, it's just...
Yep, all of those things. The African American Museum, when actually the only time I've been was with you. And we were in D.C. and just looking at that and thinking about and seeing all of those things that African American, that black people have contributed to this country, you know, and like you said earlier, all of that ties into black money. I mean, even looking at the criminal justice system.
It ties into our attitude as well.
And
that
does.
was what he talked about, the importance of a positive attitude. I mean, they'll tell you that when you're sick, your attitude, if you have that positive attitude.
That's why they want people who love you to come visit you.
Exactly.
That's why people bring you flowers to brighten up the day.
It makes a difference. It makes a difference in all of those different kinds of outcomes, whether you're talking about health, whether you're talking about, I mean, success in business, all kinds of things.
Absolutely.
So, I don't know, he was exciting.
He was exciting.
I really got a lot from that interview.
I did too. And to know that, you know, when you, and he talked about like humble beginnings, that doesn't have to stop
and it was funny because he kind of just built on to when we did behind the scenes with popularity.
Yep.
You know, he built on that and some of the things that Pastor Threll talked about and why it's so important, this project Dewan is working on as far as the Black Business Directory. You know, we need that kind of information.
We do. We need to be able to say, you know, who's doing, like you mentioned, I think last week or on the last episode, electricity. Who's doing that? You know, who can I really talk to get a business loan? Because I tell you what, if I want a business loan and I have a business, I don't care if I'm going to the bank or the number man. Who do I need to talk to? Who can help me?
And I'm glad you talked about the number man and the importance because I do. You know, once something's taken from us, then it's okay.
Then it's when it goes mainstream.
Right.
Oh my goodness.
Right.
And look at everything that's gone mainstream. I know we've talked about the numbers, we talked about marijuana, but even our culture.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like, what's the lady's name that got credit for cornrows? You know.
Don't even say that.
You know what I'm saying? Like, every time something's taken from us and it goes mainstream, then all of a sudden it's big business.
Right.
It's big business.
Well, sometimes chitlins are a delicacy.
Yeah, you're right. You're right. You know, it's big business.
Exactly.
It's a delicacy. It's something, you know, look at this.
Well, we've been doing that for years. So
it's part of our culture. It's part of our community. It's what we do. You know, we're looking like...
We should be some proud people.
We should be.
We are.
We are.
We
are very proud because we're rich in culture. And, you know, and we just... And really, if you think about black money, we're just going back to our roots.
Right.
You know, we
because like you said, it used to turn over. What did you say, 30 times?
And now we're talking 0 to 1. Like we're just going. We're trying to go back home. We're trying to get back to that place where our dollar stays in our community, where we're able to lend and borrow from each other and circulate that money in the community and make sure that our kids are able to start businesses and own homes and do what everybody else wants for their families.
Exactly. It's nothing different.
Right.
It's nothing different. And research. Do some research. I mean, because like I said, some of the things that I purchased, I said, oh, let me see if I can find. And I don't know. I know I've said it every time, but how excited I was to make those purchases.
Right, absolutely.
And I think, we owe it to ourselves.
We do.
To do some research.
We do. We owe it to ourselves. We owe it to those grandbabies that we have.
And the people that came before us.
The
like
people
you said,
that came
because
before
we stand
us.
on people's shoulders.
We do. And we need to respect that, and we need to honor that. And so you're right. I mean, and then thinking, just in this, we owe it to the people who came before us to make sure that we're buying black, that we're doing our homework, that we're going out and voting, that we are
that part again.
That we're going out and voting,
right.
And that we're doing our homework on our candidates,
right.
That we're doing those things because people died for our right to do that. People suffered for us to be able to do that, and they knew when they were doing their rallies.
They may not make it.
They knew
it.
They knew it, and so they knew they were doing it for us.
Right.
Yes,
they recognized the importance.
Yes, so we owe that. We owe them that. We owe it to ourselves because if you're talking about economic empowerment, you have to make sure that you have access to the resources. You have to make sure the people that you're putting in position is going to not just sit at the table, but be a part of the conversation on your behalf.
On your behalf.
Because that's why they're there.
That's why they're
there. And we talked about this. We've talked about this before. Not just sit at the table to create a pathway to do us in. Sit at the table to create a pathway to move us forward.
Right.
Right.
Don't hobble us while you're at the table.
Please don't. We don't. And
And
don't think that we don't recognize when you're doing it.
Right.
So absolutely. And then we need to put ourselves in a position where if they don't want us at the table, we create our own table.
And
we are there.
I think that's what we just did.
That's what we just did.
That's what we just did.
That's
we created this table for Black Money Matters. When you see a void, you fill it.
And so I want to encourage everyone out there watching and listening that if you have a topic that you would like to see, if you have a guest, somebody that you're like, hey, they would be, awesome. If you are a business owner and you want to share your story and talk with us, please email us at blackmoneymatters2@gmail.com. The number 2. So that's blackmoneymatters2@gmail.com. All one word, no spaces. We want you to follow us on Facebook at Black Money Matters. We want you to follow us on YouTube at Black Money Matters. We have information that we're trying to give to you, and you have information that we need from you to make this successful. Our goal is to help each other create wealth and keep wealth in the Black community, and that is so important.
But one thing we have to add, subscribe.
Subscribe.
Please
subscribe.
We want you to subscribe.
Absolutely.
We want to keep this going. This is important. So
subscribe to our YouTube channel.
That's right. So it's easy.
It's easy. Yes, absolutely.
So I think that's it.
That is it.
This was an exciting show. It was full of, I hope, great information for people. Share it, please. And how do we want to end this? With
Black Money Matters.